Welcome to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. Today is Sunday, April 7th, and this is episode 6. In this episode, we are going to give our breakdown. Jim and I are going to break down the Chelsea-Sheffield match, and we're going to preview the Champions League Bayern versus Arsenal match on Tuesday. Jim is freshly back from Europe in the room with me, straight back from the airport to watch the Chelsea-Sheffield match.
Yep, came right here, dropped my girlfriend off at her apartment, came straight here, taped the Chelsea match because I didn't want to see anything on my journey back, driving from Chicago to Milwaukee.
Smart.
That's how dedicated of a fan I am, and as a podcast co-host I am.
I mean, yeah, straight off the 8+ hours flight, and then hour and a half, 2 hour, whatever, drive back right to Chelsea. I wish it was a little bit of a more fun result.
Yeah, obviously tough. You heard my 10-minute-ish reaction after the United game, the Man United game, that is, not Sheffield, and just was such a high for me that night in Bruges, seeing that match. Obviously, the reaction the next day to it. So I was really coming in, feeling the heat, feeling awesome, feeling great about Chelsea as a team. Just tough to see what happened today.
Yeah, I agree. As somebody who is not as intensely of a Chelsea supporter, but even I felt the high after that Manchester United match. That was awesome. And I guess I should mention too, check us out on Twitter. You can see our thoughts and our reactions during the match and any news and any scoring updates and things like that. Our Twitter is @AlwaysBayChe. Check us out on YouTube too, Always Bayern Chelsea. We put out a video episode for episode 4, and we're going to be doing some more kind of previews and reactions this week too. So keep listening on Apple and Spotify.
Definitely been a lot of exciting content lately. Even while I was in Europe, we were able to get a lot of awesome stuff out, including that first video podcast, which I thought was really awesome to do. And yeah, it's going to be great going forward. We got some Champions League coming up. We got the end of the Premier League and the Bundesliga. Even though both teams are not really playing for much at this point in the league, it's still going to be an exciting end to the year. We'll see. Chelsea definitely pulling on my heartstrings a little bit lately, but hopefully it'll be exciting to say the least.
Yeah, I think there's always something to play for. There's a lot of talk right now with Bayern about being out of the Bundesliga and like, oh, what does that mean for the rest of the season? But if you ask me, you got to play for that second place position, and also just for the pride of being Bayern Munich. I mean, and I would say the same for a club like Chelsea too. You got to show some fight and you got to show some spirit.
100% agree. It's totally on pride at this point, especially for Chelsea. And I agree that it is for Bayern, because I think anything worse than second would be a massive failure, even with all the craziness that the season has brought. And then, yeah, for Chelsea, they've been sitting at this 9th through 12th position the last 2 years, which is not even close to where they're supposed to be as one of the so-called big clubs in London. So, yeah, it's pretty embarrassing right now. So your pride is on the line.
Totally. I guess both of us, we can talk a little bit more about the lack of pride that Chelsea showed today, as we're recording this Sunday, April 7th, in their 2-2 draw to Sheffield United.
Just pretty embarrassing to get that result. I know it's away at Sheffield, but bottom of the Premier League, going to get relegated. Really just a terrible team. No other way to put it. Chelsea don't show the fight at all times. And it's so frustrating because they showed it at the end of that Man United game. Even after embarrassingly losing that lead that they had, they at least fought back. Against Sheffield, it was like the entire match they were sleepwalking through it. And it's something that Poch kind of alluded to after the match, that maybe they're just not ready to play every 3 days. But they're young. You'd think they'd have fresh legs. You'd think they'd have the fight and the desire. When you're young, you tend to be more joyous about the game you're playing, which is why I'm really not understanding that side of it.
Yeah, I can see why Poch would say something like this after a result like this today, but I feel like that is unacceptable for Chelsea. I don't think you can have that mentality of like we're not ready to play European football, we're not ready to play whatever. Even if they're such a young team, like you're Chelsea, you have to string something together and show, like the fight that they showed against United. I thought that was great. If that can be more of a consistent thing, then they will be, and then they should be ready to play more than just to play more than drawing against Sheffield United.
Totally agree. And coming off the United win, had some momentum. We're thinking things are going to be great. And to lead us into this match, you see the lineup changes beforehand, some illnesses, injuries potentially. You got Silva back there. You got Chalaba, Noni starting. Nico looks like he was playing a lot of wing. Kind of interesting to see those moves. I understand you had to make some of them, but you kind of figured it was going to be a bit of a dicey match just because you didn't really know how the team was going to perform with those changes. And then they just come out the way they did, where they kind of look dead. Sure, they get the Silva goal in that 11th minute, which was awesome to see in his 100th Premier League appearance. One of my favorite players, Silva. But the team still didn't look ready to play. Maybe they didn't take Sheffield seriously. Apparently they had that problem against Burnley where they maybe weren't taking them seriously. It's the Premier League, guys. I mean, what are we doing if that's the case?
Yeah, and Sheffield is clearly fighting. I mean, they're fighting for their lives right now. Yeah, I was gonna say the lineup confused me a little bit when I saw like who was playing where in the attack for Chelsea. I know that they have a lot of injuries, and I'm not somebody who's paid attention to them for as long as you have. But I don't know. Do you think the lineup has an effect on the kind of like lapses in judgment, the lapses of like spacing and positioning that we saw today?
It must. I mean, that's the only explanation I get at this point. There's a lot of them, a lot of those lapses in the defensive side of the field, which is frustrating. You always see all this space open up between center backs and full backs. And I think it also is affecting the offensive capabilities of this team. It seems like they don't always know where their teammates are on the field when they're passing, trying to get forward. It's really frustrating because I know they have the talent. I know they have the ability to score goals, but they're not putting themselves in the greatest positions at times against a team like Sheffield who just isn't very good.
Yeah, I mean, you see Chelsea's talent, I think, on, certain goals, certain bursts of building. You can see Chelsea's individual talent, but from what I've seen today, but also just a couple of times recently here that I've watched Chelsea, it seems like they have this like bursts of individual talent, like I said, that you can see the bright spots, but then there's also like a lack of creating, a lack of chances. I mean, they had less shots and probably less shots on goal today than Sheffield did.
Both less, you're absolutely correct. And
yeah.
What you are talking about with these bursts of brilliance, bursts of poor display, it's, as I'm looking at my notes, it's exactly the way the notes are written with the ups and downs of the match. They score in that 11th minute, but then all I'm thinking is, when are they going to concede the next one? They all of a sudden are really passive, not aggressive at all. They're making these mistakes. Silva makes a mistake that should have led to a goal but didn't. Then it's like they're kind of settling in again. Petrovic makes a save. 2 minutes later, they give up the goal. So then that goal did get conceded right away. And it's just back and forth with these displays where you're thinking, all right, this team, maybe they're cooking a little bit. Oh, wait, let's make this huge mistake. Or let's have a defensive miscommunication. it's just so frustrating to watch at times.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I noticed a handful of really good saves from Petrovic today. So that, like, to me, that tells me that, I don't know, like, it's worrying. As a Chelsea fan, I feel like outside of, the bright spot of Petrovic, his performances, you got to be worried that the defense is giving up chances like that, good chances.
And Sheffield don't create a lot of chances.
Exactly.
It's so frustrating to see that happen. And Petrovic, honestly, unfortunately, has been looking a little shaky lately. But yeah, he did make some nice saves. But as I have been mentioning, you've been mentioning, just the ups and downs, the back and forth, it's so frustrating. And then when it's 1-1 at half, they never come out at half looking great.
Yep.
And they didn't today either. They didn't look aggressive. They looked slow. They looked tired, uninterested at times, weren't creating chances. Palmer was even looking off with his passing. Guys were trying to make runs. He wasn't finding them. Or sometimes he was finding them, but then the run would be off. Just kind of this disconnect with the front 3 or 4 guys at all times, which isn't really going to help the way you're trying to score goals.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like, Palmer had a nice assist, but then outside of that, it looked like he was disconnected is the best word, I think. Like you said, just some interesting, maybe questionable decisions.
And you mentioned that assist. That kind of leads us right into the next moment of the game, and it was a solid pass by Palmer, leading Noni into some space, kind of created his own space, driving the ball to the middle of the field. Real poor defending. I don't know how you're that defender, letting Noni Madueke get to his left foot, and then he just buries it. Brilliant goal. A bright spot on the day for sure. And I wish there could have been more bright spots and we would have gotten a chance to enjoy it a little more. But let's say it for what it was. It was a very nice individual play.
It was, yeah. That was a beautiful strike. Yeah, I don't know what Sheffield's defensive, like what was going through the defenders' heads on that one, just giving him that space. But yeah, he buried it. That was a nice goal for sure.
Very nice goal. You love to see Noni gaining some confidence. The problem being, you're up 2-1, and I'm just worried about conceding because that's all Chelsea do lately. They get up, and then they allow a goal. So the rest of the game, the last half hour-ish, you're just worried. And Sheffield were the team that was more aggressive, creating more chances. I thought the subs were interesting that Poch was able to kind of make. Brings on Carney for Palmer, which apparently he might have been a bit tired. We'll see what the case was for that.
Yeah, did Palmer say anything, do you know, after the match? Because I didn't hear anything.
I haven't seen any comment from him specifically.
He looked a little bit frustrated to be subbed out.
Yeah, the gaffer kind of made a comment where he thought he got a knock against Man United, so he thought maybe they'd protect him a little bit. He apparently looked tired. I don't know. Bringing on Carney, I loved. Didn't love taking Palmer off. I don't know. The rest of the subs, Mudryk didn't do much. I guess it's fine coming on for Noni. And then Cassidy and Benoit come on. Doesn't directly lead to the goal. The goal literally happened in kind of the next play. You could argue Benoit maybe didn't get a header that kind of led to the goal, but really tough to say on that. I'm not blaming them for that at all.
Yeah, I mean, these guys come in like the 80th or 85th minute. Sometimes it seems like, I don't know. What are you supposed to do at that point?
Yeah, I mean, and they actually came in extra time, and then I hardly even want to talk about that goal that Sheffield got at the end there because it was so maddening how you knew this was going to happen. You knew they were the team generating more chances, and then of course it happens. Chelsea always do this lately this year. These defensive lapses where they just let teams control them. I'm struggling for the words to even say how I'm feeling because it's just maddening. That's all it is. It's maddening. I feel like a jester in the city of Bruges. Nice. If you know the history of Bruges, you'll get the reference. But that's how I feel.
Everybody knows the history of Bruges.
Most people should.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got you back, and the especially for the post-match like raw reaction, because I was feeling the same way yesterday after Bayern and Heidenheim. So it's good to get it out.
And if I'm going to get out one last thing about this match, because I'd like to stop talking about it or I'll get too sad and depressed. Some of the post-game comments from the manager are disheartening, sad, slightly true, sure, for some of it. What he kind of said about that word, process, we kind of mentioned it, and I mentioned the Philadelphia 76ers. That word irks a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily get as mad as some people do, but it's tough to see when he says it could be 3 or 5 years, because with a team like Chelsea, I get you're young. That's really not what you're hoping for as a fan. So that was tough to see after the match, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially with some of the individual talent that Chelsea has, and I'm sure that's an emotional / in the moment statement to say 3 to 5 years. But I mean, as a Chelsea fan, you gotta hope once some injuries clear up and maybe some guys develop a little bit into a little bit more like of a mature player, mature like person, I guess. You gotta hope that things turn around before that 3 to 5 year threshold.
Totally. And that's on the manager though a lot too, which is why it's frustrating.
Yep.
So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, some managers are better at developing those things than others. I mean, who knows? Guys like Tuchel are probably pretty awesome at it, right? I mean, he's got a great squad, I think. So
yeah, I think every player loves Tuchel. I think he doesn't alienate anybody. Yeah, he's just everybody's best friend.
That's what I hear.
Well, that is a good segue into the Bayern versus Arsenal preview. That's coming up on Tuesday here, April 9th, 2 p.m. Central Time. The Champions League quarterfinals, and the winner of that match has the ultimate privilege of playing either City or Real Madrid.
And I will say this, a lot of the people I follow on Twitter that are Chelsea fans, they always talk about how great Champions League night football is over there. So I got to imagine the game is going to be awesome in London, whatever city they're playing in, all the other matches that are going on as well that are still left in the quarters. But is this the quarters or the semis?
It's the quarters.
Quarters, yeah. Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be an awesome atmosphere for Arsenal, especially with no Bayern Munich fans being allowed in the stadium. Probably impossible to crack down on that, but yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't know if, especially after Bayern's last performance, I don't know if Arsenal needs any extra help. They're, I believe they're on a 7-match win streak right now. They're hot.
I knew they were hot. Yeah, I mean they looked great against Brighton over the weekend. So, I mean it's going to be tough for sure. But you could also, as we've talked about in the past, you could argue that is a little bit of a double-edged sword, because maybe you're thinking Bayern is off their rocker, Arsenal's too hot. Those things combine and meet, and it's a force that kind of goes the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be convinced of that force, but we'll see. I think at this point, Bayern has a little bit too many problems to overcome. You run the risk of players not wanting to play for the coach. I guess players not showing up for the coach when things really, really get tough, when you sack the coach and then have him continue to manage. Bayern's not in a good spot, to be honest, from that standpoint, and you would think and hope that the maturity of the players, especially a lot of these older guys, would kind of overcome that. But it's a tough ask, I feel like, to have a team with a manager like Tuchel right now, lame duck, and then ask them to really dig deep and really fight when things get tough. I don't know how Tuchel's going to motivate them, honestly.
Well, off mic, we were talking about the average age of Bayern seems significantly older than most teams.
Yeah.
You'd think something like that would be very valuable going into a Champions League. You have to be able to kind of block out and throw out all the league performances that you've had as of late. Maybe it hasn't been great. You're not gelling as a team. If you can throw all those out and kind of come together and say, hey, this is the chance we have in front of us, let's go take it, you'd think those older guys could do that. I know Kane doesn't have any trophies, but he's still experienced and able to probably do that.
I'm wincing when you say that. But yeah, I think, Kane has a good track record against Arsenal. So we'll kind of see what happens with him. I'm hoping he can really show up because the team is going to need him, honestly.
And he's the type of guy I think that has performed in those big stages to a certain degree.
Yep.
I do make those jokes about him, sure, but he's no doubt one of the top strikers in the world, if not the top striker. So for sure he's going to be a guy you're going to lean on, knows probably how to play against Arsenal, has gone against those defenders time and time again, knows their tendencies, I'm sure. And while they know him to a certain degree, I tend to think the striker has the upper hand in most cases.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And honestly, before the Dortmund match, I would have told you that I think Bayern has a great chance, or at least like a 50-50 chance against Arsenal coming up here. Unfortunately, I don't feel that way anymore with these last two showings. But I think that, in Champions League like this, anything can happen. No matter how hot Arsenal is, Bayern has talent. Like, on paper, if you look at it, Bayern should be able to compete.
I will throw in this other tidbit. Arsenal right now is top of the table of the Premier League, tied on points with Liverpool, ahead on goal differential. Champions League's important. Winning the Premier League, I would argue, is maybe more important. That could be a factor. Will Arsenal care more about winning the league? They might.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't. Has Arsenal ever won the Premier League? I don't know if they have.
They have, yeah.
Oh,
they had a team that they call the Invincibles, I think, in the early 2000s where they were like Leverkusen, where they never lost a match.
Yeah.
But it's been a minute for sure.
Okay, yeah, and I guess the other thing that Bayern has going for them, who knows how much this is actually going to matter, but the history and just the prestige of Bayern, they have a good track record against Arsenal in the Champions League. Again, this isn't the same Arsenal or Bayern Munich teams that have played those matches, but I guess that's one bright thing to hang your hat on if you're a Bayern fan.
Those things matter a little bit, I think. It's kind of all the mystique of it.
Yeah. Cool. So let's kind of move into lineup predictions here. I've got my lineup predictions / notes for Bayern. I think that Neuer is going to be healthy to be the goalkeeper this match. Bayern really needs him. Outside of the performances that he brings, he's just one of those leaders. He's just one of those guys that you feel a lot better about the whole team when he's on the pitch. So hoping Neuer's going to be better. I think he is going to be. And then the defense is a little interesting. I'm just going to say right now, I hope that Davies and Upamecano don't play. I hope that Guerrero starts at left back. I think he's going to. I also think that Tuchel is going to move back to the Matthijs de Ligt, Eric Dyer combination at center back because although I don't think Kim was that bad against Heidenheim, the Upamecano Kim pairing at center back clearly didn't play themselves into the lineup, I guess. I'll just say that.
That's fair. I personally would love to see Eric Dyer just as a fan watching, and he definitely will know Arsenal. He played for Tottenham, so similar to Kane, should know the team, whether that helps him or not. Maybe it exposes his weaknesses as well. I'm not sure, but it'd be interesting to see him out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've been saying for weeks now, which I still haven't seen, I think I would do Delict and Kim together, but maybe their communication is just really poor or something. I don't know. Um, yeah, we'll see about Dyer. I think I'm a little bit more positive on him than everybody that I see who just trashes him left and right. I get it. You know, he was a backup on Spurs, but he has not played bad for Bayern. I'll just say that. Yeah, and then we'll assume that Kimmich is going to be right back again. Another solid performance for him at right back, I thought, against Heidenheim. But the midfield is where things, as usual this season with injuries and whatnot, are thin. Are just a thin area for Bayern. They don't really have much of a choice. But it sounds like Pavlovic is not going to be healthy from his infection, tonsillitis, whatever is going on with him, which really blows. I think he would make a huge difference for Bayern if he was playing. But I think it's going to be Leimer and Goretzka in the middle. We'll see. I kind of mentioned this on the Reaction podcast, but Goretzka seems to be playing well when he's in this like defensive midfielder role where he backs up more. And I think that it's harder for him to do that when he's playing alongside Konrad Leimer, so we'll see what happens. Moving up to the attack then for Bayern, this is another area that's kind of unknown and interesting right now with injuries, but it sounds like right now Sané is going to be healthy and going to at least travel with the team over to London. Kingsley Coman, there's still a question mark if he's going to be good to go or not. But honestly, if I were Tuchel, I would start Serge Gnabry over Sané, just because Sané is so banged up. But for some reason, it seems like Tuchel can't help himself but start him every single match he's available. We'll see what happens. I think if Sané is available, Tuchel's going to start him, but I would start Serge Gnabry. And then I think we'll also see Muller and Musiala starting again, and obviously Kane in that striker spot.
Sounds like a decent lineup. I know in terms of Arsenal and how they potentially match up, they have pretty solid attackers. You know, you got two pretty good wingers with Gabriel Jesus and Bukayo Saka, who, frankly, you probably might need Davies to play just because Saka's so strong on that right wing. So you're going to need somebody at left back that can stick with him, and Davies obviously is pretty fast.
Davies is fast, but I like worry about Davies' positioning against a guy like that. Just from what I've seen with Davies lately, it seems like he's always out of position, and like he just will let guys kind of blow past him lately, which is like shocking to me because he's so fast.
In that case, yeah, you could be right then. Maybe you want somebody else out there. The other interesting wrinkle is you will have Kai Havertz making an appearance. He'll probably start. And
yeah.
He knows Tuchel well, played for Tuchel at Chelsea, also knows a lot of the Germans well, being on the German national team. He's actually been playing really well lately, which has been tough as a Chelsea fan to see, but good on him for that.
I mean, that's another reason why the midfield just scares me so much. Like Declan Rice and Kai Havertz against, you know, the weak like midfield / defense that Bayern has been showing lately. It worries me a lot. Like I don't know what else to say, but I think that's going to be like just a potential disaster coming for Bayern.
Yeah, I mean Declan Rice, the best midfielder out of either team that will be on the field for sure.
For sure.
So he's going to be able to control a lot of that, especially playing at home. That'll be interesting to see. I'll probably watch that matchup for sure in the midfield to see how well he's able to do against Bayern. I think that'll probably set the tone. And then if he's able to get Saka the ball in space, how well Bayern can kind of do against him. I'm not the biggest Saka fan. I think he's good. I think he's a little overrated, personally.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be interesting to watch as well. I think Arsenal, very solid team. They're playing well coached, score a lot of goals. You know, obviously top of the Premier League, so they look great right now.
The thing that worries me too is that they play well together, where Bayern is not playing well together right now.
Agreed. I still need to see Arsenal do it in a pressure situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Last year, I don't know if I would say they bottled the Premier League title. They kind of lost it toward the end of the year, and then it was over from there. City took it. I would say right now they're back at the top. We'll see if they sustain that in the league and obviously in the Champions League here. We just haven't seen it with this version of the Arsenal team, with Arteta at the helm as well. So if I'm an Arsenal fan, I just worry about that in the back of my mind, kind of the pressure moment, how big the stage will be, if they can convert all their good recent form into actual success and trophies.
That's where, as a Bayern fan, I just hope and pray that prestige, allure, whatever you want to call it, aspect comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, you got teams like Tottenham that have been searching for it for years and years and years, and you still look at their shelves. They've been collecting dust for centuries.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm struggling a little bit on my prediction for this one. Right after the Heidenheim match, I wrote down Arsenal 3-0, and I think at this point, I'm gonna go Arsenal 3-1.
Wow.
I think that Kane is going to sneak a goal in there. But, especially in London, 3-1 would obviously suck. That's my prediction. I think if Bayern obviously draws, that's amazing for them. I think if they lose by 1, that's also, okay. I wouldn't completely lose hope. But, yeah, if it's 3-0 or something like that, I think all hope is lost for the season, unfortunately.
I would say I'm putting my eggs still in the basket of Arsenal being a little bit of a fraud on the big stage, which is why I'm going to go at halftime. It's just going to be a terrible match, 0-0. And then I think Arsenal are going to find a couple, and Kane will get one toward the end to make it 2-1. I just don't see Arsenal crushing. In that scenario, they'd go up 2-0, but I think they'll be playing some worried ball a lot of the time, more defensive. I'd be shocked if it was really high scoring just for those reasons of the nerves coming into play. But we'll see. I mean, I certainly could see both teams scoring a few each.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's kind of what I have to say. What I have to get off my chest right now for that Bayern preview. Yeah, do you have anything else to say about that, or just other news in the soccer zeitgeist as of late?
I'd say I'm looking forward to that Champions League match for sure. Wish I could really dive deep. Maybe I'll try to see if Paramount lets you watch it later. It sucks with Champions League. It's always weekday.
Yep.
For us, I mentioned it's probably awesome for the night football over there, but for us, 2:00 when I'm in the office, it makes it a little tougher, but maybe I'll try to watch it later, or I'll definitely be kind of keep my eye on it throughout the match to see what's happening. So, but other than that, I mean, try to think what else has kind of happened this week. It's been a pretty entertaining weekend of Premier League football, at least.
Yeah, Liverpool, Manchester United drew 2-2 today, right?
That was a good match.
Yeah. Spurs, I think, won again.
Spurs beat Forest.
Yeah.
I mean, Arsenal, Liverpool tied now.
Yep.
City's still right there, like a point behind, maybe 2 points behind. So it's gonna be a really strong finish to the Premier League season. Plus, we got Champions League, so a lot going on.
I am looking forward to the end of the Premier League season. I'm genuinely excited about that.
And even though Chelsea are not battling for top 4, they sit 9th with a game in hand, so they're battling for Europe still. We'll have some tougher opponents coming up. Not the next opponent in Everton next weekend, but it'll be interesting. Still got FA Cup technically too. So that's in 2 weeks, which we'll get to eventually, but that's another wrinkle. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, cool. I guess this week you can expect some sort of an Arsenal-Bayern match breakdown, and then probably a match preview too. for the weekend, the weekend's matches. But other than that, like we said at the top of the episode, check out the YouTube channel, check out the Twitter, and if you want to hear our thoughts on previous matches, go back and listen to some of those other episodes.
Couldn't have said that better myself.
All right, well, until the next one, go Bayern.
Up the Chelsea.